Red Bull's driver picture for 2026 is heading toward a shake-up, and the clock is ticking. The team has told its candidates they have until the Mexican Grand Prix to show they deserve a place, with Laurent Mekies and Helmut Marko watching closely. Yuki Tsunoda's strong result in Baku has kept his name in the conversation, but the big question is whether one standout weekend is enough to secure his future. At the same time, Arvid Lindblad is back in the headlines despite a rocky run in F2, and his name keeps popping up in talks about a fast-track step to F1. What makes all of this so intriguing is Red Bull's structure. Because the main team has a sister outfit in Racing Bulls, the pool of possible teammates for Max Verstappen is wider than at most other teams. Performance across both squads matters, and the ladder between them can move quickly. Right now, Tsunoda seems to have regained some momentum after Baku, but Isack Hadjar's steady rise is giving the decision-makers something serious to think about. With several drivers improving at the same time, Red Bull has more options than it can use. According to a well-known German publication, Red Bull has internally set a clear condition. If Tsunoda does not make a visible step forward over the next few races, he will lose the 2026 Red Bull seat, and Hadjar would be promoted in his place. As for Liam Lawson, while his trajectory has been positive lately, the shaky form he showed at the start of the season still weighs against him when it comes to a main team comeback. He simply hasn't given them enough reason yet to reverse course. Here's where it gets more complicated. For years, the belief was that if Tsunoda didn't keep up at the top team, he'd be cut from the Red Bull system entirely. That stance appears to be softening. There is now a real chance he could be shifted back to Racing Bulls instead of being dropped outright. The Faenza-based team finds itself at a crossroads. On one hand, it could promote a gifted youngster from F2. On the other, it may choose the experienced pairing of Tsunoda and Lawson for 2026. That scenario isn't the most likely one today, but it's no longer out of the question. Some would call that a step backward for Racing Bulls, especially with how highly Red Bull rates Lindblad. But betting on raw talent is risky. Lindblad is not the finished article yet. He hasn't even started an F1 season, and his time in F2 has included errors and crashes that show he still has lessons to learn. There's also a strategic angle. Bring him up too early and Faenza becomes a temporary stop before he's pulled straight into the main team if he shines. That is the traditional path for a Racing Bulls driver, of course. Even so, Racing Bulls could benefit from a stabilising figure like Tsunoda returning, using his experience to keep building the team through a period of big regulation change. It's also worth remembering that the second Red Bull seat can be a poor measure of a driver's true level. We've seen strong racers look ordinary next to Verstappen. Before joining the main squad, Tsunoda had grown into a confident midfield driver, although it took him time to get there. But F1 moves fast and reputations can change in weeks rather than years. The practical view is simple. If Tsunoda doesn't take a step by Mexico, Hadjar is next in line for that Red Bull seat. That would settle the main team's 2026 pairing, but it would throw the Racing Bulls lineup wide open. This is why you'll hear so many different combinations floated for Faenza. Some reports even claim that Lindblad already has a seat locked in, with Tsunoda and Lawson battling for the other slot. Take that with caution. The sources are considered reliable, but it's not an official Red Bull position, just what people believe based on how 2025 has unfolded so far. And if you listen to how Marko has described Tsunoda's recent changes, it sounds like they still think there's something to unlock in him. After Monza, where Tsunoda was often a full second off Verstappen, Red Bull altered their approach, giving Yuki more coaching, more reference points, what Max does in certain corners, where he brakes, how hard, and tuning the car to be less edgy for Tsunoda's style. That shift, Marko suggested, helped him look better in Baku. The remaining puzzle is Lindblad's timing. Promoting him as soon as 2026 would be bold. He showed excellent speed during F1 running in Imola, but his F2 campaign since then included some heavy mistakes. That was a reminder that even top prospects can falter if pushed too fast. There is a strong case for patience. Leaving him in F2 for another year has advantages for both teams. Racing Bulls could stage a full season fight between Tsunoda and Lawson rather than leaning on the small sample we saw in 2024. If one of them fades over a proper campaign, the team then has a clear reason to swap him out and bring in a more mature Lindblad, who by then would have learned from another year of racing at the front in F2. Most people agree he is the next big Red Bull talent. It just doesn't have to happen tomorrow. Giving him the time to grow into the driver they want may pay off more than rushing. And then there's a wild card. Red Bull has reportedly met face-to-face with Alex Dunne, even though similar links were denied earlier in the year. The Irish driver is part of McLaren's academy, which complicates any move. McLaren cannot easily place him in their own F1 team unless something unexpected happens to the Norris-Piastri lineup. In the wildest scenario, both Tsunoda and Lawson could be left out, with Dunne and Lindblad forming a completely fresh pair. That would be a jaw-dropping combo and feels unlikely for 2026. If it ever happens, it would more likely come in the second year under the new rules. For now, Dunne remains exactly that. A wild card, a name to keep in the back of your mind unless the situation changes sharply. However this plays out, a Red Bull reshuffle is coming. Even if Tsunoda holds his Red Bull seat because Mekis and Marko feel the recent trend is strong enough, Racing Bulls may still look different next season. Lindblad is banging on the door and wants a full year in F1 to prove who he is. The question is whether Faenza is willing to break up a productive lineup to give him that opportunity right away. They're performing well at the moment, and swapping out a steady driver for a rookie, no matter how gifted, always carries a cost. What should fans expect? In the short term, watch Tsunoda's form closely up to Mexico. If he strings together a run of smart, fast weekends, he keeps himself in the fight. If he slips, Hadjar is positioned to benefit. Keep an eye on Lawson too. Consistent points and cleaner Saturdays are what he must deliver to stay in the conversation. Meanwhile, any hint that Red Bull will delay Lindblad's jump by a year would say a lot about the long-term plan. Hold steady now, then promote him once he's sharpened by another F2 title run. And if the Dunne whispers suddenly get louder, that could signal something bigger is shifting behind the scenes. For now, everything is on the table. The main team wants a bulletproof partner for Verstappen in the first year of new regulations. Racing Bulls must balance nurturing the next star with maintaining momentum as a competitive midfield outfit. Whether the solution is Tsunoda's revival, Hadjar's promotion, Lawson's resurgence, or Lindblad's leap, Red Bull's driver puzzle is the story to watch as the sport heads toward 2026. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. See you in the next video.